Hey, I'm going to call the meeting to order, 6 o'clock. And just a reminder, we are recording this meeting for posting on the West Bridgewater Community Access channel, so everybody is aware of that. First of all, we have a new member to the committee. Chris Trudell is representing the as ADA coordinator, and so welcome, Chris, to the committee. My apologies to Chris, as the roster we sent to you had Chris's name spelled wrong, and I referenced that in the email, so a public apology for Chris for that, and we'll get his name tag for the next meeting. And with Chris taking that role, that was a need because of Marcy being elected as our new selectman, so congratulations to Marcy for that. And the selectmen have voted to put Marcy on as their representative on the school building committee. And really kudos to Mike Perez, because as you know, Mike had stepped in that role, attended a couple of meetings, and then once Marcy got elected, Mike on his own voluntarily resigned, and basically because of Marcy's long-term tenure since the committee started almost a year ago now. So that was a nice gesture, I thought, on Mike's part to be able to have Marcy serve. We can't have two selectmen serving on the school building committee because of open meeting law and the fact that if two members of the selectmen are sitting as part of this committee, it becomes a Board of Selectmen meeting. So we don't want that. So again, congratulations to Marcy, and we continue to do some shuffling. Every time we have a change, Mark sends a communication to our representative of MSBA. That's been done for these changes, and everybody is in full voting capacity for this meeting. And for Chris's benefit, as again, our friends from PMA, I'd like to have everybody just go around the room and introduce themselves. Again, I'm Gary Keith, the chair.
Mark Bottle, Superintendent.
Lincoln Tebow, Fire Chief.
Tim Nixon, Police Chief.
Henderson, COA.
Cheryl Adams, Finance Committee.
Bill Flynn, former school committee resident. Bill Holden, former school committee resident. Dr. Brawl, water commissioner resident.
Marcy Lee, Selectman, President.
Keith Gray, Principal of Spanish Junior Middle Schools. Kathy Marble, Director of Student Services. Deb Yanis, Director of Curriculum.
Donna Hume, former school committee member and resident.
David Schmidt, current school committee.
Scott Weech, Engineer, Resident.
Chris Trudell, ADA Coordinator.
Sean Burke with PMA Consultants, Owner's Project Manager.
Mitch Miller with PMA Consultants.
And again, welcome to PMA officially. They are now on board with us after Mark and I and PMA successfully met with the OPM selection panel several weeks ago, taking your endorsement to them. Pretty easy process, I thought. They asked a few questions, nothing outrageous and nothing that we couldn't handle, and we got their approval letter shortly thereafter, which I communicated to you. So we're in good shape and happy to have them on board, and happy to, as you'll see tonight, happy to have them now taking the heavy workload on the next phase, which will be the designer selection that we need to make between now and roughly the end of August, as we'll go through the timetable. So Sean and Mitch, we're glad to have you on board and looking forward to working with you and the entire PMA team. So,
Thanks, likewise.
great. All right, the first order of business is to approve the minutes of the March 26th meeting, which were previously distributed to you. I'll entertain a motion to approve those.
Motion to accept.
Second, any discussion? All those in favor? Aye. Any opposed? So voted. Thank you. All right, I'll immediately turn it over to PMA for the well, let me go over the, I think anything else we need to cover on the OPM process? I don't think so. Yeah, okay. All right,
Awesome.
Mitch?
Yep. Thank you. We are excited to be here in front of everybody again. I think it's been about a month now. So since then, we've come on board and we're going to run in through the designer selection process tonight. Just to give you a reminder of the overview of the process. So we are forming the project team. So you selected the OPM, and now we will assist with the designer selection. And then feasibility, schematic, project funding, detailed design, construction, and then completion, which we're well a ways out on that right now. But as far as forming the project team and the designer selection, we have a timeline here that we put together. So on the 21st, we met with the designer sub-selection committee. We went over some outlines and procedures that will happen with them. And today we're meeting with the full building committee. Hopefully, if all goes well tonight, once we review the RFS, we can vote to send that to the MSBA for review. They'll have 2 weeks to get any comments back to us, and then we can go live with the RFS. Once that RFS is live, which should be around 6/19, we can do a briefing session. So again, we'll probably tour all 3 schools with any interested applicants. Then they can submit any questions they have to us. We'll handle all the work on the question end, so the committee won't get bogged down, or the sub-selection committee, but we'll keep everybody in the loop. The deadline will be due around the 17th. There is opportunity for us to kind of accelerate this if the MSBA has any comments that come back sooner than 2 weeks. So, but right now, we're holding the 17th for that deadline. Then, in between then and the 25th, the sub-selection committee will meet, and they will work on kind of a rough grading or selection of top applicants that they will submit to the designer selection panel at the MSBA, which we'll get into in more detail in a little bit. But we will target 8/13 and 8/27 for our 2 meetings. The first meeting with the designer selection panel and the MSBA is just to develop a short list of applicants, and then the second meeting will be the interviews. And then after that, we can begin contract negotiations with a selected applicant. And that'll be roughly the end of August into September.
So just a time out there, Mitch.
Yeah,
It's a lot of dates and a lot of milestones there in
Yep.
a relatively short period of time, especially considering the time frame we've been working under since we started almost a year ago. So does anybody have any questions about what any of this means as it relates to the designer selection process? What you're going to see is something that it's very different than what we did with OPM. The OPM was basically on us until we delivered the package, submittal package, to the MSBA. This one is much more MSBA hands-on involvement in the selection process compared to the OPM, and that's the way it was with this building as well.
That's right. So they'll review the RFS before we can advertise it. And then they'll also be involved with the 2 meetings that we have with them on the 13th and the 27th. And we have some slides on what those meetings are coming up too, so we can get into those details as well. There's no questions right now. So just as the selection process goes, so developing the RFS, that's underway. It's actually complete at this moment. We'll just need to all vote on it later tonight if there's any questions. And tomorrow we can send it to the MSBA. That'll kick off their 2-week review period. The respondents will evaluate those between the 17th and the 24th, and then that's when we will kick comments back on the 25th to the MSBA with the selection of the applicants, and then the actual designer selection panels, as I mentioned before, the 13th and 27th. So the preliminary review of designer submissions. So we'll distribute the selection to the subcommittee members. What they'll do is they'll make sure that the submissions are complete and adequate. PMA will also do our internal review of all the applicants, including any reference checks and making sure there's some required documents such as a designer sub-consultants matrix. So any sort of, we'll say, trades that fall under them. So engineering, envelope, so that'd be electrical, mechanical. They make sure they carry all of those in their package as well. It's very important, we put this in bold and exclamation points, that we don't rank them prior to the MSBA meetings. The MSBA does not like ranking. So it's just an overall general, we're checking the boxes, everything's in the application, the reference checks are good, and all the required documents are there. This is a slide which I don't anticipate happening, but this is if there's 3 or fewer applicants that submit on this project. There's a couple of different steps that you have to take. If you wanted to, we could go back out and start the process again and look for other, we could reword the RFS, change information in the RFS, but that would kick us our timeline back. So that's something that we wouldn't want to do. And there's just a certain different criteria that we would have to hit when we submitted that. But we don't anticipate that happening right now. This is just in case that comes up. There is a process to do that. As far as the selection panels with the MSBA, so I've already mentioned these dates a few times. It's the 13th and 17th of August. Those are highlighted on the right. That's right from the MSBA's website. So those are the selection panel meetings. Who attends is the MSBA staff, and then they have 13 designer selection panel members, and 3 representatives from the town of West Bridgewater. And I think I have the slide. Yeah, this slide actually shows you in detail who those members are. So the 13 members that are from the MSBA include a Board of Society of Architects, Associated General Contractors of MA, and MSBA staff. And then the 3 local representatives, which there's some, one falls right into place, that's Mark, so we don't have to do anything there. But then as far as one that would be designated by the school committee, and then one whom shall be the chief executive officer of the city or town and is eligible applicant, or the school committee building would designate that as well.
So let me just go over this, because this is going to require some action on your part tonight. And we're following, our recommendation to you is follow the practice that we did with this building, which seemed to work well in interacting with the panel. So obviously, the last time we had superintendent, and we had myself as the chair filling this slot. And then this one from the school committee, we used the business manager. So this time around, that would be Kathy Grant. So I think that's the best recommendation to make to you tonight, is that we follow that same guideline, because that checks all the boxes in terms of MSBA. I think it's good representation, particularly in Kathy's role as business manager in terms of the financial aspect of the contract and so forth. So I think that serves us well. So school committee will have to take action at their next meeting to appoint Kathy in that role. No action is needed for Mark, that just happens by the position he's in. And then we'll be asking for a motion and a vote to appoint myself in this role as chair of the school building committee to fill that 3rd spot.
Perfect.
Is there any questions on that?
So as far as the designers selection panel, the meetings as they go, so the first meeting, I said, we'll evaluate all the applicants and we'll identify a short list. And then the second meeting, we'll get into the actual interviews of the firm. This is just a sample of the rubric that's used to rank them with the MSBA. So this includes the 13 members and the 3 from West Bridgewater who will work together to grade and rank the applicants.
So again, in comparison to the OPM, big difference here, that we are not conducting the interviews on our own. We're doing it in conjunction with that MSBA selection process.
Yep, there will be some collaboration, such as questions and whatnot,
Right.
and that, but yeah, they do have a lot of input. Here are the dates. So the first meeting, review the designer submissions. The DSP ranks the firms from first to last, and we shortlist. It could potentially be more than 3 or less than 3, depending on the applicants that we have. And then the second meeting would be the interview the shortlist candidates, and then rank, and then negotiation would be after the selection. So we've been working on the RFS. This is just a sample of the cover page. I do have the whole document. It's about 12 pages. We can pull it up if we want to go through it. A lot of the information in this document is specific information to the town of West Bridgewater, which was similar to the OPM
Yeah,
RFS.
sorry, I think because of the fact they've got a vote on it, and
Yeah.
it's been distributed, we've met, as Mitch said, we met with the selection subcommittee who you charged to handle all this on your behalf. So we've met with them. They have already had the copy of it since that last meeting to review. But because you have to vote for it, not asking you to read every line, obviously that's impossible. But I think it's worth paging through it, just in terms of referencing. It is the MSBA standard boilerplate, standard contract with changes for us. So if we could just highlight some of those
Yeah,
things as you go through it.
absolutely.
I think it's prudent for us to do that.
Yep. So the cover sheet is the introduction, what the services they're seeking, so go into a feasibility study agreement. We list the estimated potential construction costs of the project, so that would gain interest from all the firms, seeing what the school's looking for, how much money is allocated for, or roughly for the construction costs.
And just a word of caution on that, if that number, this is a public document, so right now it's referencing, 80 to 160 million. So that's just a number we have to put into the RFS. That doesn't mean that's the number that we're recommending to the town, or even that we're even close to being on a square for what that represents in terms of what the project is. So it's just a number at this point.
Yep.
So just be on the lookout if this surfaces anywhere as hey, the school building committee is recommending a $160 million project. No, we're not.
Yeah, just the range.
Right.
We also have MBE, WB participation goals for the designer. It's part of their contract. Then we'll get into background, which is a lot of town-specific information, the population growth, the status of the schools, the enrollment of the 3 schools, the history of any issues with the schools or maintenance items with the schools. So that's a couple.
That's basically what we had in the original OPM.
Yep, that's
Original OPM and the original statements of
That's
interest.
basically the
Right.
same information.
Same
Yeah,
information.
and the statement of interest, same information. These enrollments are the same that were in the OPM RFS as well. And those will, the SOIs, the statement of interest for all 3 schools will also be an attachment to this as well. So that'll go out with this RFS. Then we get into project goals and general scope. So what the town is looking to accomplish by having the designer on board. And this will be, it's similar to our contract too. It's just for feasibility study agreement, and then it will roll in after that phase of the project. Scope of services, so we list the basic services that we're looking for, as well as, you know, if there's any specialties that we need for sustainability design, anything that, such as laboratory work or kitchen work or code consultants, whatever they should be carrying in their proposal when they submit on this project. We include a project schedule. So this goes all the way from the designer contract execution in September, all the way through construction start, which would be roughly March of '27, and then move into the completed school in September of '29. So
Everybody hearing that?
way out, September of '29, yeah. Then we also list qualifications that we're looking for, selection criteria. So here, these are the sub-consultants that I was talking about before, making sure that they carry all the same sub-consultants and everything's covered in their proposal. Requirements, so what format their submission should be in, when it needs to be submitted, how many hard copies. So it's going to go to Mark, and there's an email here from Mark as well. But any questions for this will be going directed to PMA. We have the pre-proposal meeting for June 25th at 10 a.m. We shifted that because school is going to be out, so starting that a little earlier. And then our standard attachments that go out as part of this, such as a statement of interests, base contract for design, bid, build, or CM at risk. And then things such as the enrollment letter from the MSBA and MSBA designer selection procedures and certifications that are required as well. So there's a lot of information in here. We see these though on all of the MSBA projects, and this one is in good shape and ready to hit the streets or ready to send to the MSBA so they can get their comments in. You can see all the marks see the red lines on the left. We have to keep our changes tracked on here so the MSBA can see everything, so they like to audit and see what's going on. Then once they give us their comments, we can edit this and revise it and then get ready to send it out and post it.
Any questions in the RFS? And again, the designer expense is the biggest percentage of the 1.2 million that we have approved for the feasibility study. Obviously, we don't know what that final number will be until we do contract negotiations with the successful applicant. But we know already that it's going to be the largest percentage of that 1.2.
Do you want to take a vote now? Or you want to
No, let's move.
Okay.
Let's go through it. Yeah.
Next, we just want to list some key dates for everybody to understand. I know summer's busy, so the RFS will be published on hopefully June 19th. We said the pre-bid will be 6/25. Responses are due 7/17. We're scheduling a school building committee hopefully for 7/23. I don't think we're going to have one in June, right?
Correct. We'll cancel the June meeting off the schedule.
Applications are due to the MSBA on 7/25. There's going to be a designer selection subcommittee on 8/6 to work through the applicants that were received. And then DSP number 1, 8/13, and DSP number 2 is 8/27. And then there'll be a school building committee after that to update the whole committee on the process of hopefully successfully selecting an applicant.
Yeah, and so you're showing a date in early September, which would be different than when we normally meet, but you want us to meet sooner in the month.
Yeah, we should probably meet sooner after that number 2 meeting, which is on the end of August, DSP meeting on 8/27. We can also talk if we need to shuffle it around. I'm just showing early September.
Okay. We can,
And that can get bumped up a week or so, depending how fast you get comments back.
Yeah, it could. Well, actually, no, sorry. So the 8/13 and 8/27 dates, those won't change.
Okay.
But if the MSBA does provide us comments earlier than anticipated, we could get responses sooner than the 17th.
Okay. So
If
the
we-
whole thing doesn't shift up a week?
No,
or something
no,
like that?
yep, that'll stay.
It would just give us a little bit more time to review designer responses and go through them before the DSP meetings, but those are hard, set, already scheduled.
Yeah. Any questions on the upcoming schedule? I think that's all we had.
all right. Okay, so if there aren't any questions, we'll take a formal vote to approve the draft RFS for designer selection for approval and submittal to the MSBA by PMA.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the motion? Okay, hearing none. All those in favor? Any opposed? So voted. Thanks. Chief Tebow, if you don't mind, since this next motion concerns me as an individual, I'd like to have you ask for the motion to appoint me as the school building committee representative to the designer selection panel.
I asked the committee to make a motion to add Gary Keefe as the chairman to attend the meetings.
Second.
All-
Move.
Second.
I was waiting for you to go.
Put a vote together. Any ayes?
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it.
Okay, great, thank you.
Do we have to vote to recommend to the school committee that they will make that the draft?
I don't think we have to, but I don't think that's a bad thing for us to do procedurally, just to have the paper trail.
I'll make a motion that we recommend to the school committee that they will make that the draft.
All right, is there a second on that motion?
Second.
Any discussion?
Did anyone just talk to her about that and show the dates for her schedule?
Yes, we've talked to her. Yeah, we discussed that at the designer selection panel, the subcommittee meeting we had last week. Yep, she's aware of it. Any other questions? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? So voted. And they're meeting next week?
Monday.
Monday, okay.
So just
So-
conclude.
So that'll be wrapped up by Monday. All right, anything else we need to bring? Anything else PMA has for us?
No, nothing from us at this time, but we'll keep everybody updated on when we get, so we'll send it to the MSBA tomorrow, and then we'll start the clock for 2 weeks, and then we'll keep everybody posted on their review.
And just like we did with the OPMs, if somebody wants to attend the walkthrough on June 25th, you're welcome to do that, but, I mean, no action takes place. We're just going to walk them around all 3 schools. A couple of architects did attend the OPM walkthrough, which that was fine for them to do. Whether or not they make a repeat visit, those who did, or obviously we'll probably have others once the RFS gets posted, so,
That's on the 25th?
25th, yeah.
10 a.m.
Yep, 10 a.m. on the 25th.
Yeah, we'll start at Roselle, and then move around to the other 2 from there. All right, so, again, over the last, it is hard to believe it's been coming up on a year next month since our roster was accepted by the MSBA, and it feels like a lot of hurry up and wait, but it is the time frame that's been established for us, and I thank you for your assistance in processing all this according to that schedule that MSBA and the protocol that they've established. It does work well, but it does take time too. But I think you'll find, those of us who sat through this for this building, once the designer is on board and working with PMA, we'll move quickly, because there's a lot to happen in the remaining months of feasibility, without us having to ask for an extension for the time. If you think of the scope of the project and looking at all three schools and the site, that's a lot of activity that has to occur. So it's a lot of decisions that have to be made by us as a group. And so that information will come hard and fast once everybody is up on board. I don't hesitate to suggest that at some point during feasibility, once this starts to ramp up, we probably will be meeting twice a month at that stage, rather than the every other month we seem to be meeting at this point. So just so you're prepared for that. Anything, Mark, from you?
I'm good, just leave your name cards. Don't take them home.
Gary, will this presentation be shared with us, just if we want to go back to reference the dates?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you?
We-
Yeah. if you-
we
I
have-
have it, so I can.
Oh, yeah, you have it, yeah.
Yeah, we'll put it on the Google Docs page. Yeah.
If you do in that presentation, the date's wrong, the time's wrong on the walkthrough.
We changed that.
I think
Unless you go into the contract.
I don't think a time is listed on.
The last one was in 6:25.
In the RFS, is that? Is in the RFS
The
itself?
RFS itself is changed, so.
Yeah, the RFS changed, but the other one. Designer
Oh, yeah,
approved it.
yeah.
Yep.
We'll update that.
Somebody's looking at that and they want it to come.
Good catch. We'll update that one.
Yeah, good catch, Art, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, does anybody else have any items they need to bring to the committee? Questions, comments in general, outside what we've already talked about? All right, if not, again, we'll cancel the June meeting, and then our next meeting will be July 23rd. What's the date? July 23rd, so no June meeting. All right, on to take motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
All right.
Any opposed? So voted. Thanks very much, appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.